Everybody, thank you. My name is Veronica Cordova. I'm with Bernalillo County. I'm with the Office of Senior and Social Services. Today, we will be presenting Senior Scam Jam, Keep Your Guard Up. It's the second in our series, and the pre-recorded versions will be on the Burnco YouTube channel. So if you have to leave, or if you want to review any of the information later, or you wish to refer someone to the information that you've learned today, please go ahead and direct them to the Burnco YouTube channel. This video will be available after sometime tomorrow. We'd like to thank you for joining us for this presentation, which is being sponsored by Bernalillo County Office of Senior and Social Services and Money Smart New Mexico. Money Smart New Mexico is a group that actually has a lot of different organizations that collaborate, like financial institutions, schools, not-for-profit, government agencies, and libraries that stress the importance of financial literacy, informs consumers and business owners on where they can get financial help, and provide free educational seminars and activities. The goal of this community-wide effort is to help guide the people of New Mexico on the path to economic independence through the expansion of their knowledge of financial concepts and access to financial resources. Scams are very prevalent throughout the country, and this is an effort to keep folks informed about the various scams that are out there. Our topics today will cover fraud and identity theft. Our presenters include Teresa Carson, who's the president and CEO and founder of the African American Greater Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce. Don Esquivel, who's the first vice president of United Business Bank, and George Kinnifick, who is the director of enterprise empowerment with the Loan Fund. Their biographies have been sent to registrants or participants, and we will actually provide that again at the end of this presentation so you can see the wealth of experience and knowledge that they have in their industries and the expertise that they lend to this presentation. I'm Veronica Cordova. I'm a community program specialist for Bernalillo County Office of Senior and Social Services. And we'll get started with our first topic. Dawn?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. First and foremost, we're going to talk about credit card fraud, and typically there are two categories. Application fraud, when someone is taking your information and they're trying to open up a credit card in your name, but of course they are not you. And one of the tips to keep an eye on that is to check your free credit report. It's at annualcreditreport.com. You can get it free once a year for all three credit reports. And that way you can keep an eye on any new credit lines that have been requested from your credit bureau. The second category is account takeover. The taking of an account and changing the account billing address and then declaring the card lost or stolen to obtain a new card. And this is another thing when you get your bills through the mail and maybe you didn't receive one of your credit card bills, you need to call the credit card company because somebody may have called and changed the billing address and then claimed that the card was stolen. So for those of us that still get some of our credit card bills in the mail, that's something to look out for. Next slide. Next is the mortgage assistance rescue foreclosure assistance fraud, where there's a promise, guaranteed, or immediate relief of foreclosure, and there might be some assistance for they're offering you assistance in paying your bills and keeping you from foreclosure. but a lot of times it is where they're charging you very exorbitant and very high fees, but yet they really have little or no services. So that's something to be on the lookout for. The next slide. And again, you have a right to reject their offer. They need to be providing you an offer in writing. That is either you accept it or you have the right to reject it, and they need to inform you that you have the right to reject it. And these are at no charge for you to get that offer and for you to reject it. So don't get scammed. There is foreclosure prevention counseling available through free of charge throh HUD's housing counseling program. If you'll visit their website at go.usa.gov/B2H or call 1-800-569-4287. And you'll be talking to a qualified reverse mortgage counselor to help to see if there's any options to prevent foreclosure for you. And on to George.
Yes, so thank you, Dawn. We just decided that we have this mortgage scam going on, and it has to do with the fact that your property, your home that you're living in all probability has a large equity that you've accumulated over the years. And if anything attracts scammers, it's the chance to basically take your money. So home repair fraud is something that's rampant, and it's has to do really with the fact that there are just these unscrupulous people out there who see that they make the assumption that because you are a senior citizen that you can't take care of yourself or your property, which is probably not the case. So you need to be very be aware, that people who come and knock on your door and tell you that you need a roof replacement because they saw it from the street, they're probably lying to you, and they are wanting to take your money. Like I say, it's always unsolicited. It's not something that you requested, so you can always reject it. There's always a sense of urgency too. They always tell you, that if you don't fix this right now, something terrible is going to happen to you and everything. And they're just there to make it happen for you. It's so what you have to always be careful for is the pressure tactics that they will employ to try to create this sense of uncertainty and possibly fear in you that there is something actually wrong with your house. So next slide, please. So here's a few questions that you can ask. Obviously, you want to have them identify themselves, and since really you're not obligated to take anything right away, and you shouldn't. If they are going to give you a written bid or an estimate on this proposed work that they are going to maybe do for you, compare it with other established contractors, possibly some that you already know and have some degree of confidence in. Before they get started on anything, whether it be signing the contract or anything, ask to see their required licenses and make sure that they are bonded. Anybody who is going door to door or has their truck out at the curb with out-of-state plates, those are probably not to be trusted. They if nothing else, once they did the work, if it wasn't satisfactory, they'd be gone and you wouldn't have any recourse whatsoever. Don't provide an address or telephone number, and refuse to show your identification. Obviously, you do not want to give them any of your personal information. Next slide, please. Since, again, getting back to the matter of them not pressuring you, check if they do give you a license number or something, check with the state's agency and see if they really are who they say they are. Ask for references, and if you do get to the point of having a contract, make sure that it is clearly written, and also be able to review it and review with have maybe somebody, a trusted person in your family or friends that are knowledgeable, that can review the contract and to check the terms and make sure that you really are getting the right deal. Never pay in advance and never pay with cash. If the story is that you have to buy materials or something, that just does not go. That is part of what they do, and they have to provide any kind of receipts on that, which are part of what you would pay for if you had a deal with them. Again, do not provide any personal financial information regarding your bank accounts or credit card numbers or any of that. In the event that you are going to go ahead with the repairs and that you believe that you don't have enough money to actually do the work or to pay for the work, get your own loan. Do not, if this person is trying to steer you towards a particular lender or something, just pass on that. And finally, if the work gets done, have it be reviewed. If it has to be reviewed by the city or by one of the utility companies or something, make sure all of that is done before you actually make your last payment. And Dawn, that is back to you.
Thank you, George. So let's talk about reverse mortgage proceeds fraud. So let me explain what a reverse mortgage is. It is a special type of loan that allows homeowners who are age 62 or older to borrow against the equity in their homes. It's called a reverse mortgage because the lender actually makes payments to you, the homeowner, instead of you making payments to the lender. You don't have to pay the loan back as long as you continue to live in the home, you maintain it, you stay current on taxes and homeowners insurance. If you move out or pass away, the loan becomes due and must be paid off. But where this comes into the picture of where it's proceeds fraud is, scammers are also out there to sell these products to disadvantage their victims, because the reverse mortgage is an actual product and service and can be beneficial to those who fit that niche. Sometimes there are family members that coerce or pressure the elder homeowner to go and get one of these reverse mortgages, and then they borrow the money or scam the money from the homeowner, and the homeowner doesn't ever see it, yet the homeowner is responsible for making the monthly payments on it. Another scam would be requiring the elder homeowner to sign a power of attorney to sign the proceeds over to a loan officer or an agent to scrutinize and manage dispersals when actually they're just looking to embezzle all the funds. Because once that power of attorney is signed, then unfortunately they take the money and go elsewhere, and it's really hard on a legal standpoint. So there's, on a reverse mortgage proceed, there are no agents that manage the dispersals for you. It goes directly to you, the homeowner. There's also, lastly, there are some more reverse mortgage brokers who pressure the borrower or the homeowner to purchase other annuities or long-term care insurance, high-risk investments, things like that, generate additional commissions for that broker. So just something else to be aware of. And you can also look for the designation of folks that have the designation that specifically address seniors' needs for homes and investments and things like that. And George, back to you.
Thank you, Don. So another thing that is always, very close to every one of us is how healthy are you? And because people are so concerned about that, again, that presents an opportunity for people with no scruples to create all of these different scams and frauds and things to basically take your money, because that is really what all of these things come down to. So some of the things that you have to watch out for are these, especially through social media. That's where it really is prevalent in that regard. But it comes through emails as well, and through sometimes even like advertisements on TV. So some of the things that they can do is they can promote miracle cures and or conspiracy to hide cures for prevailing conditions, and there's usually testimonials, people who swear that these cures turned their life around, it made it all better for them, and again the phony advertising. So the thing to do there is you have your medical team that takes care of your health needs. So if you ever are targeted with any of these, and maybe there's some that may sound that there's possibly something there of interest, be sure to check with your doctors or your practitioners and tell them you heard about this or that, and have them give you the kind of the lowdown on if these things are really true or if they are just, yes, again, a scam. So, and then one of the last scams that they'll try to pull on you is the funeral and burial scams, which there's really just nothing you can do with that except work with people who you're comfortable with, that are legitimate in the business, that they have a reputation, that you can verify that they really are who they say they are. There's plans, the prepaid funeral services, you should have some of those, and possibly some kind of a insurance policy to take care of that. But always be careful whenever they come and they want to sell you anything like burial plots and that sort of thing. And it's very sad that this is something that people decide to do, but it does happen, and you just need to be very aware. Your best defense against that is to have something in place beforehand, so that if they do call or mail or whatever, you can just say thank you. I already have a plan that will provide for me. So. Just again, be aware, just pay attention to what's being said and what's being offered. Next slide, please. So, caregiver fraud. It occurs when the individual that you've designated as a caregiver physically or financially abuses the dependent. Caregiver is any person who has the care, custody, or control of, or who stands in a position of trust with an elder or a dependent adult. And the only way you can really do that, protect yourself against that, is to just be physically careful and control your assets, such as your checking account, your checkbook, your credit cards, all of that. You just need to be able to know where they are at all times, and you keep them. Don't leave them out where they can be seen or taken or anything. If your caregiver is going to be purchasing something for you, maybe running an errand or whatever, make sure that you get a receipt for anything and everything that they are going to go out and get for you. Keep track of your bank accounts, see if there's any unusual movement or mostly withdrawals out of your accounts. And phone bills, just make sure that people are not doing, maybe running a business through your phone or something like that. If you feel that you can't really stay on top of this, that you're not up to taking care of this matter, get somebody else, a third party, maybe a family member, and have them monitor your situation and your financial and asset situations, and just check for any kind of unusual activity, things that just don't sound right. If it doesn't look right, it probably isn't. Next slide, please. Always, like I said, keep track of your things. So open your own mail, pay your own bills. Do not delegate that to your caregiver. That's not what they're there for. That's not their job. Do not ever promise them anything other than what their compensation is. Don't ever lend them money or your property, such as your car or something like that. Never let them use your credit card to run errands. If it's going to be something like that, you need to provide them with cash to do it, or reimburse them with a check if they make the purchase with their own money. Ask for your financial institution, whether it's your bank or your brokerage or whatever, to send a second copy of your statement to somebody who outside of your house who you can trust, that can also be another set of eyes on your situation. And just quite obvious, you don't want to leave your valuables laying around. So, put them under lock and key, and just be vigilant. There's no harm in taking care of yourself, and people are human, and they will sometimes just not do the right thing for any number of reasons. So it's up to you to make sure that you're not scammed or defrauded. Teresa, to pass it over to you.
Great, thank you, George, and good afternoon, everyone. So now we're going to jump into the topic of identity theft. This happens when someone steals your personal information to commit fraud. It is illegal to use someone's personal information to obtain money or credit. And just to show how prevalent this issue is, every 14 seconds, someone becomes the victim of identity fraud. And this is just for your own information as well. 33% of citizens in the US have experienced identity theft. 1 million child identity theft incidents occurred in 2020. And every year, 15 million Americans become victims of identity theft. And the last fact I'll give you is identity theft cost people in the United States 56 billion with a B in 2020. So how do we protect your identity? So number one is that don't share personal information. It is imperative that you protect your name, your birth date, your social security number, your address. As Don shared earlier, bank accounts, and so did George, and also credit card numbers. People will ask in very creative ways. And so your position should always be with random folks that they do not need to know this information. Next slide, please. So here is some additional advice. So protect your incoming and outgoing mail. So one of the things that I'd like to impress upon you is to take outgoing mail to the post office. Inside the post office, actually at the mail drop inside the building. The other thing too that I want to share with you, if you have not signed up for direct deposit, please do so, as opposed to having those kinds of financial documents coming to a mailbox. You need to keep your financial trash clean, and this means consider buying a shredder. We want to shred receipts, credit offers, account statements, and expired credit cards. This can prevent those dumpster divers from getting your personal information. And I just want to go back because I failed to mention this point with regards to protecting your incoming and outgoing mail. One of the things that you should highly consider is if you are going to be out of town, to go forward and get with your post office to put your mail on hold during the time that you are out of town. So then going back to the list here, you want to keep a close watch on your bank account statements and credit card bills. And we continue to emphasize this because it is very, very important. So you want to review your credit card and bank statements. You want to compare those receipts with account statements, and you want to watch for any unauthorized transactions. The next one is you want to contact your institution if a bank statement or credit card does not arrive on time. Because missing financially related mail could be a sign that someone has stolen your mail and or account information and may have changed your mailing address to run up bills in your name from a phony location. And this is one that's not on your list, so you might want to take note of this one, is to review your credit reports once a year. I know Don shared this earlier. You want to be certain that they don't include accounts that you have not opened. And again, just for further emphasis, you can order it for free from annualcreditreport.com. Next slide, please. So with regards to medical identity theft, so medical ID theft occurs when someone steals personal information, such as your name and Medicare number, and uses that information to get medical treatment. And they list all the different kinds of treatments that they could possibly obtain utilizing your Medicaid, your Medicare number. So you want to keep your medical records, your health insurance records, and any other documents with medical information in a safe place. I know George had mentioned about securing that kind of information. If you have a safe or you don't have a safe, you might think about getting one. So these things include, again, your health insurance enrollment forms, health insurance cards, prescriptions, prescription bottles, billing statements from your doctor or medical provider, and your explanation of benefit statements from your health insurance company. Next slide, please. So these are the actions that you can take. You can contact these agencies to submit a Medicaid fraud and elder abuse and neglect complaints. The New Mexico OAG, Medicaid Fraud and Elder Abuse Division, the New Mexico Aging and Long-Term Services Department, also the Attorney General's Office. That's another action that you can take. And also Regulation and Licensing Department, your IRS, the Federal Trade Commission, the Aging and Long-Term Services Department, and also AARP Fraud Watch Network Victim Support Helpline. And these are very, very helpful resources. And so I believe that you should have these in your materials that Veronica has actually sent out. And so I think I'm turning it over right now to Veronica.
Veronica, you're on mute if you're speaking.
Oh, sorry about that. So sorry about that. Yes, so we've discussed several things in both presentations about financial exploitation, tips for recognizing scams, strategies for avoiding fraud and identity theft, including the medical identity theft. There's several things that we want to emphasize, and we want you to remember. One is to recognize, and that's just so if you see something and you don't think this is correct, or you have a funny feeling about it, you know, speak to somebody else about it. You know, don't just ignore it. Also, you can refuse. You don't have to be persuaded to do anything that you don't want to do. That's important. And you need to report it. So if something's happened to you, report it. Take those steps so that one, you can try to find resolution to what has been done to you, but also to prevent other people from being exploited in the same way. We're going to have an opportunity now for questions and answers. And so we'd like to hear from any of our participants that are here in this class to ask questions. We'll call upon you. We can go ahead and ask them for you, or we can have you ask them of our panelists. So there is an option for you to raise your hand or to do something in the chat. You can do either. So there is a question from Philip Thomas. Philip, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thanks, Veronica. Hi, everybody. I'm Philip. Would you please reiterate the exact name of that YouTube channel that we can access at our convenience in order to be able to review and rewatch both of the Senior Scam Jam sessions?
Certainly. What I'll do is I'll also send the link to those at the end of the presentation as well. But you will find these presentations on the BurnCo YouTube channel. And if you just go in your browser and type BurnCo YouTube, you'll find the channel, and then just look for Senior Scam Jam as some of the words that you'll put in your search, and you'll find the actual video. But what we will do at the end of these presentations, and when this recording has been uploaded as well, is certainly share all of that information with folks, in addition to the actual presentation information that was shared as well.
Thanks, Veronica.
You're welcome.
And that's BurnCo, BERNCO
.gov.
And that's what we would input in YouTube, in addition to what you're going to be sending us anyway. All right. Thanks very much for your help and for all your great work, everybody.
Oh, you're welcome. Are there more folks that would like to ask a question? We have our panelists here, and we have the expertise that will certainly be able to, I believe, provide the information to you. And we know that we can always search out anything that we may not have available. So please ask your questions. Anybody that would like to ask a question, raise your hand or a chat. Okay, I'm not seeing anything at this time. Oh, yeah, or share a story. So if there's any of the folks that are here that have had something happen to them, an incident that they've been involved in, we'd like to share your story as well. So if you'd like to do that, please raise your hand or ask the question. There's a question from Art Bova. Art, would you like to go ahead and unmute yourself to ask your question?
Yes. How is a reverse mortgage not a scam when they devalue your property 40 or 50%?
George, perhaps you would know that, or I'm sorry, the reverse mortgage.
It's
How
okay,
is-
I'll get that one.
Sure.
If someone is needing the income, a reverse mortgage might be the right answer, because maybe they, I don't know, maybe the situation is they don't have family to leave their home to, and they don't want anything to be unresolved when they pass. And so they go ahead and they finish off, tie up whatever loose ends in that manner. I am here to say it is not for everybody. It is not something that is beneficial for everybody. Just like being in the stock market isn't necessary for everybody. You know, there's just certain things that are not for everybody, and it has to be a certain situation where it is something that is beneficial. As far as the valuing of the home, I'm not too sure about that end of the process. Or if you, let's say you have an elderly person who their children don't get along, and neither one of their children want the home, they live maybe out of the country, and they don't want to deal with anything after the passing of their parents. And so the elderly homeowner just plans that out. And that's about the only scenario that I can, a couple scenarios I can think of that it's beneficial. It's not illegal, so it's not fraudulent. It's just more of the scams, maybe the pressure and things like that, that some elderly homeowners could fall prey to should their best interest not be at hand with family members, or maybe people who are living with them in those respects, and they just don't look out for the elderly homeowner's best interest. And there again, it's a scam, it's a fraud, maybe it doesn't fit them. And kind of something we touched on in the first session is looking for those designations after someone's name. When you're talking to an investor or a broker or a realtor or someone like that, you can find those senior designations, those folks who are specialized and certified to help seniors with the situations that they're in.
Dawn, Art, I don't know, did we answer your question? Because another thing is talking about the value, devalue. Is it a scam when these folks come in and they actually say, oh, your house is worth X amount, but you know that it's probably a lot, has more value. Can folks get second opinions on the value of their home, or is that a whole new appraisal? I could look into that. I don't know. Once you sign with a broker, if you have a choice on getting a second opinion on an appraisal, a lot of times that's something that is the fees are paid out of closing. I don't know what kind of comps they get for that reverse mortgage. I just know that a reverse mortgage is not typically the entire value of the home. It's not 80% of the value of the home. It's going to be a lower percentage of loan to value, because they don't want the market ups and downs, the ebb and flows, to cause the lender to be upside down in that home. Does that make sense? Art? Yeah.
Yes, it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense in that when they devalue your home by 40% or 50%, you're not getting the value of it, and you're paying a high cost, and it just doesn't seem fair in any way.
Well, also something to think about is the lender, and there's not a lot of lenders that do reverse mortgages, but the lender is also protecting their stakeholders, protecting their shareholders, and they are banking on the worst case scenario. So let's say you do a reverse mortgage for 20 years because you needed the monthly income. You needed to generate the monthly income to pay the bills. Well, the lender might be seeing that as also a situation where there's maintenance is deferred because it's not affordable. And so when the lender comes in to take the home, when the person passes, or the home goes up for sale to pay that loan, that it's not worth as much because there's been deferred maintenance.
Okay.
So that also goes into play. Banks are very conservative. I will give you that. I've been in banking for almost 30 years and very conservative, and they think the process is the worst case scenario. And so they're thinking, well, in 20 years, if you're deferring, if you need this monthly income, you're deferring maintenance because you might not be able to afford it. And so they're thinking, well, they're going to have to put money into the house to sell it to try to pay off the loan.
Yes, but in this day and age, when the market value of a house is growing tremendously, then the lender is getting all the benefit, not the homeowner.
Mm.
Well, and that could be, but if it was the flip side where they did the reverse mortgage before the climbing of the housing market and the values increase like they are, then the homeowner is getting the benefit. So it's kind of like the stock market. It's not for everybody, and sometimes there's a time and a place. And
The homeowner
it's just not for
doesn't
everybody.
get, the homeowner doesn't get the benefit. It's a problem. But let's not take over the whole discussion. Go ahead. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you for that question, Art. We do have another question from Betty. Betty Whites, I believe it is. Betty, would you like to go ahead and unmute so you can ask your question?
Sure. I was intrigued by your statement that we should not throw out prescription bottles. And the only reason I can think of, if there's refills, that are available. Can you explain exactly why we should not? And then how do we dispose of these things?
That's a good question, Betty. So with regards to prescription bottles, if you're going to dispose of them, and this is something that I practice myself, I take the labeling off of it and shred it. And that keeps it from getting into anyone's hands. And then the other thing too, is you're right, especially if they're refillable. If they're not refillable, then you don't have as much of an issue, but I always err on the side of caution. So I still shred it. Does that answer the question, Betty?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Betty, also, if I do know of another program that is offered as well regarding prescriptions and unused prescriptions. There's always a drug take back that's usually offered twice a year. And I don't think I've seen anything upcoming, but that's something to look out for, because that gives folks the opportunity to take in any prescription drugs or other things that are in their home and dispose of them in a proper manner. So thank you for that question. Is there any other folks that would like to ask a question of our panel?
Veronica, may I also share this with Betty as well? You know, when you also get your prescription from either Walgreens or wherever you get your prescription from, there's also that sheet that describes the actual prescription and the medicine itself. That also has your name on it as well as your address. That is something that if you're not using it, if you're not securing, then and you don't need it, you should shred that as well. I just wanted to make sure we were covering all bases.
Thank you. I never thought of that. I will start shredding.
Very good. We have more time and we'd like to.
I have a question. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, the chat didn't go through. This is Terry. When you shop catalogs and things like that to mail order things, you always have to give them your credit card number, of course, and then they ask your birthday and things like that. How safe is that?
Are you doing the purchase over the phone? You doing it over the internet, Terry?
Both.
Both? Okay. Well, the thing is the more places that you put your information out, the higher your potential is or probability of your information being jeopardized and compromised. So my recommendation is maybe you have one credit card that you use for those types of purchases. So if that information is compromised, you can close it really quickly, and you can identify and compare all of your purchases with that one statement, so that you don't have to look at all these different statements and all these different receipts or for purchases that you've made over the phone or over the internet. You have one card to try to simplify it and consolidate it.
Hello?
I'm sorry?
I think there was another person who had their
Okay.
mic on.
So my recommendation is to have one card that you designate for those purchases, and maybe you have another credit card that you designate for your groceries and your fuel and other things that you use.
Okay, because I did
Um,
have that happen, and you know, they're still investigating, you know, who took the number or whatever, but I had to get a new credit card number and go through all that. And also when you have a trial time for the pills, medicine that you tried to trial, and you don't cancel in time, took me a long time to fight them to get the money back for that as well.
Yeah, you have to be careful of those subscriptions. Oh, 3 months free, whether it's Sirius XM radio, and I'm not picking on them, it's just something that came to mind really quick, or nutritional supplements. First 3 months are free, and then after that, those are kind of hard to fight. In my recommendation in a lot of the financial education classes that I teach is to use an actual credit card for those purchases and not your debit card, because your debit card is tied directly to your checking account. And if they're debiting your debit card, they're taking money out of your checking account. So now you maybe can't pay your rent or pay your mortgage or pay your utility bills, things that you need, as opposed to the credit card. So if you use a credit card for those purchases, then it's not necessarily it's not taking money out of your checking account that you need for your monthly expenses to eat off of and things like that. But yeah, my recommendation would be to consolidate or find a way to separate and segregate your purchases with specific cards so that you can keep track. And it's good that it sounds like you did keep track, because you found that something got compromised in there. And you know, same thing can happen and I'm not faulting waiters or waitresses, but it's happened at restaurants where people walk away with your card, and then all of a sudden your card information gets compromised. So you are your best advocate. So if you're looking at your checking account and monitoring your purchases in and out of your account on a daily, every other day basis, all the credit cards have online access. You can go in and check those purchases. So, you know, make it a habit, because you are your best advocate. Make it a habit at least once a week, if not more frequently, to go online and look at all of those statements to track your purchases with your receipts.
And when you catch these things, is there someone, an agency that can help and maybe do it for you? Because it took me a long time, a lot of effort to take care of those.
As far as comparing your purchases to what's on your statement, I don't think that there's an agency. What I had happen to me about 8 or 9 years ago was because I have a credit monitoring service that monitors my credit bureau. It's about $6 or $7 every month. And what they did is they sent me a letter saying, hey, your address on your Old Navy credit card changed. And I, you know, scratched my head thinking, well, I didn't do anything. So I called the credit monitoring service and said, well, and I told them, I said, oh, somebody probably just made a mistake, because I'd give them benefit of the doubt. And she said, no, Miss Escobar, what should be the balance on your credit card? And I said, oh, I think maybe $100, because I had to go get some school clothes. And she said that it was almost $900, because somebody had changed the address and then made a purchase of like almost $800 on my Old Navy credit card. They changed the address to somewhere in Iowa, some apartment, and that's where they were having the items shipped. So I immediately had to call Old Navy. I had to have them close out the card and do the research. But instead of me looking at my credit bureau or, for that change, or me going, I could have sworn I owed Old Navy some money for the kids' school clothes. Instead of me waiting till I didn't get that in the mail, the credit monitoring service helped me out. So there's monitoring services out there. And again, you have to be careful. You have to read what you're paying for, because there are some out there, again, as we've covered some of the scams where you're paying a fee, but you're not really getting anything in return. So, there's ways to go out and protect yourself in that way. But as far as comparing your receipts to your credit card statement, I don't think there's a service to do that. The only thing on the checking accounts, sorry, I'm probably giving away too much information. On the checking accounts, there is such a thing as called ACH positive pay. And you'd have to talk to your financial institution, because you could give them a list of the approved ACH debitors that have the authority to debit your checking account. And that way, if there's anything outside of that list of company IDs that you've authorized for ACH, it'll get rejected. So, but you'd have to check with your financial institution to see if that service is available to you.
Okay,
That's
I
the
meant
only-
like, I meant like after you catch it, if you find the mistake, then who would help
The government.
straighten it out instead of you calling all these people and all that?
The onus is always going to be on the consumer. Even on the bank side, we would ask the consumer, have you called them to cancel that subscription, or have you called them to ask them to give you credit? Because that's always the first step in the protocol. And that's why the onus is always on the consumer. Pretty much no matter what situation, you'd have to call your credit card company, or if it's your debit card, to call your financial institution to start that process. But as far as I know, there's nobody to do that for you.
Okay.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
well, the credit card company is still investigating, trying to catch whatever happened, but I had to get a new card and everything. All right, well, thank you.
Yeah, glad you caught it.
Me too.
We have, I think someone would like to share a story with us, maybe a situation that happened to them. Maureen.
Hi,
would
this
you like to make a
has
comment?
happened to me a couple of times, and it's just to be aware to ask questions, and it has to do with medical. So I don't know if it's intentional fraud or just there's so many chains that sometimes they break down. I had an orthopedic service, and was basically, I think, for 90 days, I was supposed to be covered for going back for treatment. And I was still charged for one of the visits. Sometimes it takes a lot of persistence to find out who you need to talk to about that bill. And just don't give up, because the whole result with one of them was, oh, you're right, you got a $30 credit. Do you want to apply that to today, or do you want to keep that for next time, not knowing if you're going to have a next time? If you have it, use it, get that credit. But it took, like I said, a roundabout way to do this, just go to several different offices. Another time with my husband, the same thing happened, and they charged him, it was either $10 or $15 when he had to have stitches. And to go back when we had to have stitches out, they wanted to charge again, but that was supposed to be included in it. So it's always good to get the name of the person who tells you things like this. You have somebody to go back to, and don't let them wear you out. It's your money. You be very firm and adamant about, getting what's coming to you when you've put out your own hard-earned money. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Diane. Diane, would you like to share a story with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Diane.
Okay, hi. Last April, I began receiving letters from the Unemployment Compensation Bureau of New Mexico telling me I had applied for unemployment and I had not done so. As it happens, the previous 3 weeks, I was in a nursing home. I fell and broke a bone in my pelvis. It took me 2 weeks to figure out that this was ID theft. And then I spent another couple of weeks notifying all the bureaus. I don't know that anything further has happened with it. But that's one particular kind of ID theft through unemployment compensation. They get a hold of your social security number, and unemployment actually sent me a credit card for payments. I never received any, but their goal was to take over those payments. So I wanted to warn people about that.
Diane, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've heard of such with this last round with folks getting cards and such. There was a comment by one of our listeners, Gary Williams. Gary was thanking us for the workshop today, and he also mentioned that the ARP also does have information to help and assist and resources that are available. So yes, that's true. ARP is a great organization, and you can look for additional information through their website at arp.org/fraud. So they're a great resource as well. There are some other things too. Let's see. Anybody else that would like to share a story or
Hey,
have a
Veronica?
question? Yes.
Sorry, this is Dawn. I just wanted to thank the ladies that just gave us their scenarios, their stories that are happening to them or that they're in the middle of.
Mhm.
It is extremely important that you're diligent and keep track of who you talk to on what date, what the ticket number or confirmation number is, or reference number, and the dates, times, who you talk with, the phone number you called, and to be diligent. And there's no silver bullet from my perspective, and it's always a lot of work on the consumer to protect yourself, and it's always a lot of work on the consumer to be reactive and have to combat attempted fraud or fraud against you. It's always a headache, and that's why we're putting on the scam and ID theft and all these things, because we would rather you put your efforts to preventing being a victim or getting scammed or having those threats, as opposed to having to do double duty and put the effort in combating that theft and fraud on the reactive end. But thank you so much for sharing. It's very important.
Yeah.
I think it's also noteworthy with regards to Marine's comment with regards to persevering with whenever you have an issue. But the other thing too, which you've heard throughout the presentation, both from the first one, part one, and also this one, part two, is the mantra should be monitor, 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 because that is truly very important and goes to the heart of what Don was describing just a few minutes ago, is the preventative aspect. Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very, very true with all of this is with, like we've talked about with Senior Scam Jam, it's keep your guard up. And when you have your guard up, you're always looking for that punch. You always have to have your guard up, just like in boxing, always protect yourself. And that's the position that you need to take in all of these areas. Being, again, like we talked about before, recognizing, if you see something doesn't look right, you've heard about this before, you research or you ask questions, you get other people's comments on it, maybe family members or friends, and the option is refuse. You do not have to jump into any situation without carefully reviewing it and understanding what you're doing or what you are embarking on, and in reporting. So many times we get caught we are sometimes reactionary instead of proactive. So be proactive. That's what we really want to emphasize to folks here. We still have an opportunity for more questions. So if anyone would like to ask a question, we are happy to address this. Or if you have another story that you'd like to share, we're happy to listen and also be able to see what how the community has been affected. Anybody else that would like to chime in or share a story with us today? I'm going to look to see, and I don't have any more questions, and I am looking to see. Oh, in regard to the
Oh,
in
hello.
regard to the prescription drop off, someone had mentioned, actually, one of our participants, Joel, had mentioned that there also may be some the drug drop off stations at police substations. So you may give a call to your police substation and ask them if that's something that they do, and you can look at that as another option. I'm
I have a
looking-
question.
Sure, go ahead.
What about all the calls we get that are scams? We tried *60. We don't answer them because if we answer, we think that they know we are here and they'll call back. And someone said you can buy a product that blocks those calls. Do you know anything about that?
Thank you for your question. Dawn or Teresa or George?
I think that there's apps that you might be able to put on your phone to help prevent those scam callers. I don't know how successful they are. I don't know anybody that has done that. But I agree with you. I don't like to answer them. And the second that the phone is done ringing or they leave a message, I go in and I block the caller because that's all I think I can do. I know that numerous times I've put all of our phones on the do not call list in the state, but that doesn't seem to prevent them.
Yeah.
Because they disguise their phone numbers through whatever process they do. But yeah,
Do you know,
I know. Teresa, go ahead.
landline calls, if they're coming on the landline, is there any way to block
Yeah,
those?
so if they come in on the landline and if they're robocalls,
Yeah.
you can talk to your provider and they can help you with that. Because I know we had to do that as well because we were getting them all the time. And that helps significantly. But, you know, some of them are still come through. But it's just not as much as before. And then the other one too is where they ghost numbers. Your provider can help you with that as well for your landline. You just need to call them and talk to them, tell them the situation, and they will provide you with an appropriate solution.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome.
I think that was very helpful, Teresa and Dawn, because I know sometimes with calls that I get, if I don't recognize the number, I figure, you know what, I'm not going to answer it. And if it's important, they'll leave a message and I'll return the call. So just some other tips there. Maybe that's mine. But any additional comments or questions from our folks here in the class, we'd like to hear from you. So please feel free to ask a question if you like. Okay. Well, we do not have any other additional questions. But we do want to thank everybody for being here with us today. We thank our presenters as well, Teresa, Dawn, and George. And we thank Money Smart New Mexico for being a co-sponsor of this event. We look forward to serving our community, and we look at other program options to seniors. Bernalillo County Office of Senior and Social Services does provide lots of programming within the county. This is one of them. And we have other things that we offer through our senior centers and through online presentations as well. We encourage folks to take a look at the different opportunities for learning or participation at centers and activities as well. But what we'd like to do to close is, again, thank you for being here. And please, as you're getting different calls or inquiries or offers, remember the 3 R's, okay? Recognize, refuse, and report. You reporting issues to the different agencies is helpful. It is a lot of work for people to recover from scams. And that's why it's so important to be proactive, to monitor, and to look at all the things that we've shared with you today. We are very, very happy to present these Senior Scam Jam. Keep your guard up. And looks like we're going to go ahead and close early, but we thank everybody. And just to, again, we will, after this recording is made available, we will upload it to our Bernalillo County YouTube channel. That's the YouTube channel for Bernalillo County. And then look for Senior and Social Services or Scam Jam as those keywords, and you will find these presentations. We encourage you to share them with other people. This is not just a senior issue or older adult issue. It is affecting everybody, but those that are older are certainly targeted more. And so it's really important to think about these things that we've shared about with you, and encourage others to look at the video. And if you want to review it, please do, and go back and share it. With that, I'd like to thank all of our presenters, Teresa, Dawn, and George. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Money Smart New Mexico. And again, we thank all the folks that are here with us today. And we close with that. And we wish you a very pleasant day. And we'll hope that you'll join us again for another presentation through the different things that we offer through the county. And also look for Money Smart New Mexico. They have a website, and they too have lots of different things that they share with the community. And they're a valued sponsor. So with that, we say thank you, and we say goodbye. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have
Bye.
a great day. Bye-bye.
Too.
Thank you.
Thank you.